What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we got a little bit different video for you. We're going to be going through my boat top to bottom. I'm going to be talking about how I built this thing in my backyard in a matter of 8 months, everything I did, how I did it. And so if you were building a boat or you wanted to build a boat and you had no idea where to start like I did when I started, hopefully this video might help you, give you some pointers, solve some questions you might have. But what we got here, it's a 20-foot Grady White. It's a 1983, I believe. But this boat was a Cuddy cabin, right? My uncle gave it to me for free. He had it for about 20 years. Everything was rotted in it. Everything needed to be replaced. But I figured it'd be a good project for me to do, to learn how to do this, because it's always something I wanted to do. Had solid bones to it, had a good trailer, and it was all free. So that's really the main reason why we did this boat in particular, the fact that I got it for free. I tried to sell it on Facebook Marketplace when I first got it, but maybe got an offer for $800 to $1,000. I don't really remember. So I figured it'd be worth it to build something that me and my family could use and make good memories and have good times on. So I'm gonna jump on the boat, start talking about everything and how it was done. Let's go. All right, so we're gonna start in the back of the boat here, work our way forward. We're also gonna try and start at the bottom, work our way up as well. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you into the bilge here. And I will be popping up pictures throughout this whole process. So when I do that exactly, I'm not sure. But already starting to get a little moldy in here. These hatches hold moisture real well and I haven't been opening them. But you can see here, one stringer. There was a bulkhead that came all the way across here, but I decided to cut it down. Still plenty strong, just to make room for a nice big bilge. You look forward, plenty of room in here to add pumps, add all sorts of stuff, storage, whatever you want to do. I do need to get a bigger bilge pump. That was kind of a temporary one that's still been sitting in there. It's only like a 500 GPH, I believe. Primer balls in here, some wiring that's not hooked up yet. Planning on saving that for a live well pump when I decide to do that. But basically, we got a stringer here. We got another one back here on this side. And then if you come up, there's a second row here. Once again, that bulkhead's coming forward about right here. And these stringers run all the way forward until they hit a bulkhead that's right behind the fuel tank there. That one goes all the way across from port side to stern. And then these two stringers on each side run all the way forward until you have your third bulkhead, which is going to be in front of the fuel tank about right here. We open up this hatch, I should be able to see it. Got all my life jackets and things in here, but that's the third bulkhead right there in front of the fuel tank. As well as, once again, two stringers on each side. Added this hatch for just extra storage here in the bow. We're gonna go back to the back of the boat. Well, we'll stay talking about underneath the boat. So right here, I added this forward piece here, and then there's one more small bulkhead about right here on the back of my anchor locker. Basically prevents my anchor locker rope from going down into this hatch you see here. Now, all the stringers and almost everything on this boat except the console is marine plywood. I decided to go with marine plywood just due to financial reasons. Marine plywood in my area is still expensive. It was $137 a sheet of plywood, but that is a lot cheaper than if I would have gone to with a Cusa board or something like that. A piece of 4x8 sheet of Cusa board, 3/4 inch, you're looking at, I want to say around $350, $300 to $350. So I did cut my coring material in half by going with plywood. The plywood should still last 30 years. It's not going to last a lifetime like Cusa is, but the chances of me having this boat for 30 years, slim to none. So, but still gonna last a very long time. Once again, coming to the back of the boat here, we did close in the transom all the way across here. The engine was mounted straight to the transom. The boat did get a whole new transom. Once again, we did marine plywood, 2 3/4 inch sheets all the way across. Initially, we were not going to do a bracket and a closed transom. We were just going to try and make it as simple as possible and get on the water as quick as possible. But I ended up getting a really good deal on the bracket. The bracket came off of a 80 something 22-foot Grady White that was also a Cuddy cabin. It was not an overnighter, but still a very similar boat, and I got a really good deal on it, and it matched up perfectly. Transom angle, everything, it fit. So I was like, well, looks like I'm throwing a bracket on it, and I am gonna close in the transom. So once again, all marine plywood. Should be pictures popping up on the screen here of what it looked like before it was painted and kind of how I did that. For making templates, I did the same thing throughout the whole process almost, which was a mixture of kind of some bigger popsicle sticks and paint stir sticks, as well as with a hot glue gun. I would lay it down, I would glue it all together until I had my outline, and then I would pull it out of the boat and trace it off and then cut my wood from there. The bracket I was able to put on, as well as the engine, just right here in the grass. I had a couple friends help me hold it up while I measured everything and marked it out. I then was able to go in, drill a couple holes to get 2 bolts to hold it in place, while I then came through later and drilled out the rest of the holes. After that, obviously sealed it all up. Had my wife help me lift it onto the bolts after we had all the holes drilled and the bolts in place. She was able to hold it while I set 2 nuts, and then she was able to let go, and I was able to go through and put the rest of the nuts in. Bracket's super strong, doesn't leak, everything's dialed in there. You might have seen in a previous video, I did buy this motor off Facebook Marketplace. The old Evinrude that was on it, unfortunately, was just not running good for me. It was giving me a bunch of problems. So we decided to buy this motor off Facebook Marketplace, and it's been running great. You know, I've put about 15 hours on it since I put it on here, and I've had no issues. It's 2001 HPDI 200 Yamaha, and everything's been good with that. So we do have some storage here in this closed-in transom. You can see my wires coming through. You can also see I have a rigging tube there. There is rigging tubes that go under the boat all the way up to the console. Unfortunately, when I put this new motor on it, I had a little bit more wiring, and I made a mistake with putting in my rigging tubes. One, I should have done a larger diameter PVC. So if you're building a boat, something to think about. Should have done a larger diameter PVC, because it was very difficult to get all the wires through. And when I put this motor on it, me and my buddy Tony fought it for about 4 hours, and we decided we are not going to use the rigging tubes. So I ended up sending all this wire through the bilge, secured it up underneath the deck so it's kind of hidden, and sent it through that forward bulkhead and up into the console that way. That was pretty unfortunate, but it works, it's clean, and shouldn't be that big of a deal. But just based off the fact that I put the time in to put the rigging tubes in and now I'm not using them, a little annoying. But lesson learned, use like a large diameter PVC, as well as don't do 45-degree corners. The 45-degree corners made it a lot more difficult. I think we would have no issues with, maybe that's 4-inch PVC. If I just did, I'm sorry, I was doing 90-degree corners. If you did 2 45s, I think you would be fine to send your wires through that way. Here in the back here, I got a leaning post. Once again, Facebook Marketplace. Came off a 20 or 23-foot Seacraft. This was the last thing I put on the boat. It is a little bit taller than it looks a little off, but it is very comfortable. It sits, you know, right at my butt here. It is perfect. I think if anything, the console should have been a little bit taller, basically where my steering wheel is, and would have made everything look a little bit more even. The deck, all marine plywood as well. Took about 5 sheets. Measuring for that, definitely made some mistakes. That's a little bit difficult. Basically, pick a center point of a stringer, measure to the right, same stringer, measure to the left, and then mark it out, and then that's how I did it, and then you can cut your edges. Yeah, I think I messed up 1 or 2 pieces of wood, but was able to reuse them up in the bow because there's smaller pieces up there. But the console here, this is the one part of the boat that is, you know, a composite material. We used a green foam. It's called Divinicel or Aircel T. I'm not exactly sure, but kind of did it from scratch. I looked at a couple consoles in the area, and these consoles that I were looking at that you could buy brand new, They're $800 and they're very flimsy. You have to go back and add your own coring material to these consoles. So I figured if I was doing all this work, you know, let me see if I could make my own and what it would cost to make my own. I used two 4x8 sheets of coring material for this console, I believe, that were about, you know, $130 each, as well as the fiberglass and resin that I already had just from building the whole boat as is. So, you know, maybe $350, I would say. And I had a console that was already cored. I didn't need to add anything to it. Like I said, if I would have bought one of those ones that they sell around here in Stuart, Florida, would have spent $800 and then still would have had to buy the coring material to go and actually make it strong. And I took measurements off those consoles that I was thinking about buying to use for this console to make it what I thought was going to be perfect. You know, the one I was looking at, I believe, was 48 inches wide. This one is 36. I could be wrong on those numbers. I don't exactly remember the size of the console that I was looking at, but this one's a 36 by 36 and it's 48 inches tall. So I do remember the other one I was looking at was 52 inches. So it would have been about up here. And it was a little bit wider. I don't exactly remember. Maybe 42 inches wide and I did 36. Maybe it was 40. I'm not sure. But this thing's solid. I was a little worried about it at first. Just because the foam was real flimsy before I got the glass on there. But once I did get a few layers of 1708 on it, secured it to the deck, she's rock solid. My brother's 170 pounds. He was sitting on the top of it the other day. Had no issues there. We did upgrade to hydraulic steering, and that wasn't part of the plan, but we decided to do that because the steering cable would not fit through my rigging tube. Back to the rigging tubes, right? I tried to get the steering cable through, but with those 90-degree corners, it was too tight. So decided to go with hydraulic, and that solved all of our issues. Right now we do kind of have this jerry-rigged PVC board right here holding our controls and our key switch. That was kind of a last minute thing because when I got this motor, I was planning on going to the keys in a few days, so I had to do everything fast. I do plan on coming back and fiberglassing in the hole and cutting, you know, exact fit holes for my controls and my key switch. Simple little switch panel there. Right now we only have a tachometer on it. I would like to do some type of Garmin Simrad right here with a GPS and depth finder, as well as a VHS radio over here and a stereo. I would also plan on doing some type of you know, like a decket or soft foam up here so I can set my phone on here. I don't have to worry about it sliding off, as well as with some cup holders, maybe even more cup holders up here, compass. You know, not exactly sure yet. We're still figuring it out. We're saving up our money. We're going to be adding things throughout the next year, hopefully. When I do add stuff, I'll post videos of it so you guys can see what I added, how I installed it. If you're curious in that, I am going to take you into the console right now. Fair warning, the inside of the console is not finished. We have no gel coat in here, and the fiberglass is raw, and the console's a little messy, as well as my wiring is was cleaned up. Then I had to take it all apart when I added the engine, as well as a nav light and a fuel gauge and a couple things like that. So it'll get cleaned up in the future. Maybe I'll make a video on that, cleaning up the wiring, if you're curious how to make it a little more organized. You know, I'm not a professional wiring guy, but see if the camera's focusing here. I just did a super simple PVC board panel right here that's through bolted through the side of the console. Got a battery switch, ground bus bar, power bus bar, if you call it, and a fuse panel, right? How I did my wiring is a little bit different, but basically we got power going to the fuse panel. These red wires come off the fuse panel and go to my switches. Power comes off the switches and goes to whatever it is that I'm turning on. I only have one battery in here right now. I would like to have 2 or 3, as well as my oil reservoir is in here. I do have access to my fuel tank right there. I'll probably throw up a picture of my fuel tank now. We did a 60-gallon Moeller below deck poly fuel tank. It's a plastic fuel tank. Went that route to save money. The aluminum ones are obviously very nice. The aluminum ones have baffles in it, so you might not feel any fuel sloshing around. But to do an aluminum tank, you got to do it right. You got to foam it in, you got to fiberglass it, you got to seal it, you got to make sure everything's perfect, or else it's not going to last, because you're going to get water in there, it's going to get corroded. Next thing you know, you're going to have holes in it and it's going to be leaking into your bilge. So I went with the poly for 2 reasons. 1, financial. 2, lack of experience, not a professional at building boats. And I knew even if the plastic one got wet, it wasn't going to be a huge issue. And then that fuel tank still, you know, they say it should last the life of the boat. Whatever that means, I'm not exactly sure. I know my uncle has a Sea Hunt with a poly one in it that's 30 years old and it's still going strong. Once again, coming forward, we have our one storage hatch up here. You guys saw the inside of that. I got all my life jackets and everything in there. I do wish I went a little bit wider with this hatch, and I could get another one and change it out later, cut the hole bigger. I thought I was going to be able to fit a 5-gallon bucket through here. Unfortunately, I cannot. It would be nice to be able to throw my cast net in there in a bucket and, you know, store things in 5-gallon buckets and put it in there. The cap is all the original cap. The only thing that really changed with the cap was back here where I closed in the transom, right? So the cap used to be about this wide and come through here like so. And then obviously the cutout for the engine. So we added the plywood all in this area. We also replaced some of the wood in the cap right here where these rod holders are on both sides because it was rotted. So we replaced the wood from about this cleat up until where it starts to rise up right here. All this is the original. The Cuddy used to come down off this wall, came down a little bit lower, and then you had a raised deck platform with about 10 inches of walk space right here, and then the Cuddy came up right through around here, and you had a big Cuddy that you could walk in with a lay down bed in here, all that. So these boxes right here are simply for a little bit of bracing for our cap, give it a little more structural integrity. I do plan on this winter coming through and adding some more bracing for the cap as well. Up underneath of it, I'm going to fiberglass something just to make it a little more solid, as well as we have a rigging tube coming through this one here that goes into the console. The reason for that was things like nav lights or speakers in the bow. Send wires through it, secure the wires up to the top of the cap here, and then the wires will come in. I have speakers here. Right now there is wires under there now for this nav light. So that makes it nice and seamless to send wires to the bow of the boat. Here we have our anchor locker. This was how it was on the Cuddy cabin, right? So I do have a lid for this. It's in the backyard. I haven't put it on yet. But plenty of room once we pull this out. I got a few 100 feet of line in there, fits no issues, as well as it has this nice piece that holds the anchor in place. So I'm glad I saved that. You know, I would like to put a trolling motor on the boat one day. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do that with this being here, but we'll figure it out. I do plan on possibly making some changes to the cap this winter as well. But nothing's for sure. We'll have to wait and see there. Talking about the cosmetics of the boat, I did some fairing. I didn't go crazy with fairing. I was planning on doing no fairing whatsoever. You know, my goals for this boat were to be cheap and strong. I was going to do a commercial-esque finish, which, you know, I pretty much did, but I did do some fairing to clean it up a little bit. But, you know, there's lots of stuff, like, as you probably saw while I was up here, we got some non-skid mixed into the gel coat up here. If you come around the cap here, we have some runs and some drips. My line for my non-skid was not straight here. Little things like that, I just, you know, I did not care about at all. As long as it worked, it was strong. You can see here when we rolled the gel coat onto the console, you got little drips, some divots, certain little things, as well as when you probably saw here, kind of hard to see in the shade, but it's far from perfect, but it's exactly how I wanted it. Right now it's dirty, I'm not even worried about it. All right, it's a little bit of a cut there. My phone overheated in the middle of my video. But as I was saying, you know, my kids can come on here, they can throw stuff on the boat, they can jump around, they can be crazy, and I'm not worried about it one bit. If they, you know, if they scratch it, doesn't matter. you know, it just peace of mind. Still looks plenty good for me, and it works is the main thing, right? I've seen super nice hundreds of $1,000 boats out there with your standard issues, whether it be a fuel tank or engines or electronics not working. That's going to happen on all boats. So that's the important stuff to me, not necessarily it being super shiny or looking perfect. I want it to work perfect. But yeah, if you guys have any questions on this thing, drop a comment right now. You know, hey, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? Whatever you want to do. I'll try and comment back and answer it. And I'm going to jump off the boat now and talk about a couple things on the outside. So, all right, so now moving on to the outside of the boat. We have not painted or gel coated the outside of the boat. This is the original gel coat that was on it when it was given to me. You can still see, you know, the Grady White where the sticker was there, as well as some resin splashes and some high quality work right here. You can see a patched hole on the side of the boat right here. And that is because that is right where the seats were essentially on the Cuddy, and there was these boxes that came out. So they had floor drains on both sides of the boat. I can go over there and show you the other side, but we weren't going to need those floor drains in the middle of the boat as a center console. So we got rid of that, patched in that hole. It's been holding up strong. Moving forward, we would like to get a new rub rail one day. We did do a new bow tow hook up here. And yeah, we do want to paint the boat or gel coat it. We even thought about wrapping it. Not exactly sure. Drop a comment. What do you think? Should I gel coat it, paint it, wrap it? The transom's gel coated. Far from perfect. It's got non-skid mixed into it. Looks great. New hooks back here. New fuel tank vent. Floor drains here. As you can see, if we come up over here, floor drains in each corner. Simple hose goes down, runs out the back. Everything drains perfect. Those did come with little grates that go on top of that, but we got rid of them. Water flows out of there, no problem. Water never comes up into the bottom of them. The boat floats plenty high with the deck being raised compared to how it was before. We got plenty of clearance. We could add a lot of weight to this boat and water still would not be going through there. If you probably just saw, I do have a gel coat crack right here. Plan on fixing this winter. I did a little experiment here. Right here, I attached this piece of wood to the old cap with just putty. I wanted to see if it would hold up. It obviously didn't. But this winter, we'll grind it down. We'll add some glass, re-gel coat it. Probably make a video on fixing that, as well as back here where we closed in the transom, right? There's a couple of gel coat cracks here because this is just a simple piece of wood that fills in the hole where the old motor was. So we'll grind that down. We'll add some glass. You see down here, still have a bunch of just putty and things not painted. When I did the transom to bond the first piece of plywood to the old fiberglass of the transom, I did a bunch of screws and then came back later. Oh, girls are out here playing. Hopefully they don't make too much noise while I'm here talking, but yeah, so they're obviously patched but not painted. I was having some issues with water getting into my bracket, so yeah, my sealant job, I came back and added more later. It's not pretty, but it looks great, don't it? I mean, that's high quality professional work if I've ever seen it. Same thing with coming over here. Look at this sealant job. Water's not getting in there. It looks horrible. Just kidding, it looks great, I think. I think it just looks beautiful. But with the old motor, we had to add all of this. With the new motor, we obviously don't need as much. I do plan on moving the hydraulic lines to this one. There's little screw-on rubber pieces that come off, make it look kind of pretty. And then I'll patch this and get rid of this hole. With the old Evinrude, we had to have throttle cables. We had the hydraulic lines, as well as the, the throttle cables came to this side of the motor, and then all the wiring and rigging went to the other side of the motor. So that made two pieces. So that's why we have extra holes here. It'll get fixed one day. Whenever I get around to it. Coming around here, you can see that crack is on the same side, so that experiment was definitely a failed experiment. my caulk's yellow and whatnot on these cleats. Every screw, any hole in this boat is sealed with 4200, or like the bracket's 5200. But just to keep water out of that coring material in there, it's going to make it last longer. I know it doesn't look great when you don't really take your time and clean it all up, but it's all about it lasting for me, not about it looking good. Once again, over here, you can see the second hole that was patched. This one came out a little bit better. Might need to do a little fairing on the other side to make it a little smoother. You can see once again our paint, you know, what we were going for. Strong, not pretty. All right, so that's gonna do it for this video. I think I pretty much hit most of the things. Should have a lot of pictures in there to where you guys can get an idea of what it looked like, you know, throughout the build process. If you like this video, drop a like, comment, subscribe. Drop a comment if you got a question about anything, or tell me I did it wrong and it looks like crap. I don't care, and I'll reply to you, answer your question, whatever it may be. So it's gonna end off this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Girls, can you say bye? Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Alrighty, thanks for watching. See ya.